So I'm showing you guys a very unique product today. It's one that you won't see on the market a lot. The closest thing that comes to this product is the Fido Q2. Now this is the Voromotors Roadrunner Pro, and I'm gonna go over the specs, what I like about the bike and what I don't like about the bike. So let's get into it. Package. Not enough companies take the time to package their products like this. And what you get is a product basically traveling across the world unscathed. No scratches, nothing as far as I could see. So let's get it out. This is the high-end version of their Roadrunner lineup. They've been out with the previous models, and this is basically their highest tier model, and they've done some improvements that are truly welcome. Even though I haven't owned the previous one, I'm still pretty happy with my experience on this bike. So I'm gonna go over the details. First off, you have these 14-inch tires. Now these tires are a split rim design, so what that means is you'll be able to take the rim off from one side and do an easier tire change. Now each of these motors are running 2,000 watts with 45 amps each. So that's 90 amps in total for a bike this size. You'll be able to hit 80 kilometers an hour, and I have done that. It's pretty crazy. Now, on the bike, you also have a 60 volt, 1,800 watt hour battery. So that's pretty good range. It's also import cells. They're not using cheap China cells. You also have a domino cable throttle. It's a mechanical throttle. Now, I personally don't like this so much. I still like more of a electric throttle, but you have a Voromotors branded nut brakes. Now they're hydraulic dual piston brakes on both the front and the rear. One thing you'll notice is there's no cable, there's no chain. So when you sit on the bike, your legs sit right here. And when you first install these pegs, they're just overly complicated. I don't know why, but they've made this process extremely cumbersome. Obviously, as you can tell, you have dual suspension on the rear and suspension on the front as well. Dual crown, so pretty comfortable riding experience. And you have an extremely bright front headlight with an adjustable handlebar, so you can adjust this position forward or up. I've kind of played around with it a little bit, and I found it to be a lot more comfortable when it's a little bit more vertical. You get a more comfortable seating position. But that's enough about the bike. Let's take the bike for a spin, and I'm gonna tell you everything that I like and I perhaps don't like about the bike. So let's go. This is what happens when you forget to bring your chest mount. I'll try not to eat the camera when I'm riding. Let's go. Hear a few vibrations, especially when you go over bumpy terrain. So we're gonna hit these, and that mostly comes from the front there, and also the battery moving around. This thing is so fun to whip around. I mean, this is really just like a mini bike. This is like a mini pocket bike, an electric mini pocket bike. The handlebars are nice and wide. I did have to get used to it. Initially, when I got on the bike, I felt it was too wide, and I wasn't used to it. But after a few days, it's not bad. I'm quite used to it. But if I had owned this bike, I would actually prefer probably a smaller handlebar, for the simple reason that I think it's gonna be a lot easier to transport and kind of slide between the gaps of cars, lane splitting. I'm in gear 5, and basically, if you're in like dry conditions like this, 30 kilometers an hour, and I pull the throttle, the wheel slips out, the front wheel at least, because there's not enough weight on the front. And that makes this bike fun, but also slightly dangerous, especially if you're riding in a wetter climate, or you happen to get caught out in the rain. The tire's just spinning out. Then you have all your controls, mode, your gear selector. If you push the M, you'll be shown different data on the display, on the TFT display. But I found that in basically whatever mode you're in on this bike, whether it's gear 5 or gear 3, there's just significant throttle delay. And gear 5 is quite jumpy, but you still have throttle delay. So they really gotta tune the software on this guy. And this bike will take you up to 78 kilometers an hour, which is absolutely ridiculous. I'm on an incline right now, but if you give it time, you'll do like close to 80, which is really impressive. I do find myself bottoming out the suspension. Definitely like a slightly heavier rider, suspension upgrade would be needed. On a bike this small. Crazy. You have these dominal throttles, so if you're used to riding electric scooters or perhaps e-bikes, you'll notice that there's a little bit more resistance with a throttle like this. And you kind of feel it a little bit better. That's the positive of a cable throttle, but you don't, I don't know. I still think I prefer an electric throttle. The handlebar's pretty wide, it's comfortable, but you'll notice when you accelerate your battery readout, it drops. So like, if you're trying to read your voltage, it's really not accurate, because if you pull on the throttle hard, your voltage is gonna go down obviously, and that's how it gets its estimated range. It's basically real time. Another thing that I want to tell you guys is this key right here. This key is only meant to lock your battery so no one can steal it, but it doesn't prevent the bike from being turned on or off. So you'll have to find a chain to lock this bike up. Otherwise someone will probably just throw this in their trunk and take off with it. But that's just for securing your battery, not for securing your bike. So the display is quite nice and it's a decent size, but the layout is a bit weird. Your gear selector here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whatever is in red is the gear that you're in, and it's very hard to tell which one is lit up in red. And if you hit the mode button for a longer period, you'll get into this, I think, eco mode with this leaf. It's daylight out, but we did ride this through the night and it's pretty good. Man, riding this thing it's a lot more interactive. It's a lot more fun. You don't need like extreme speed to have fun because you're a lot closer to the ground. Woohoo! You also have a horn. Motorcycle level grade horn, which is truly, truly welcome. So if you guys have been with the channel for a while, you guys will know that I've been using the Insta360 X3 for a while. I've used, the first Insta360 I used was the X1, which is their first 360 camera, then I used the X2. Now I'm on the X3. The reason why I use this camera so much is just because it's super, super helpful. For getting B-roll, for capturing everything you need to do. There's a lot of like crazy stuff that I do that I wouldn't be able to capture the footage of if I didn't have the 360 camera. Basically, using AI, it makes the selfie stick completely disappear and you can really focus on doing whatever it is that you need to be doing. I also found that this is probably the most useful accessory, even though it looks a bit odd, but you can mount it with this screw mount, and you can use this clamp to clamp it onto your handlebar. If you're riding a bike and you're trying to get some nice wheelie shots, you can mount it right here. Or if you're trying to get some suspension B-roll, right, you can mount it right here. This just grabs onto everything, but you obviously have to be a little bit careful because you gotta have this super, super tight. But having the Insta360 camera with all of its AI capabilities is just super, super helpful. This thing has allowed me to capture basically all my adventures. So I'm gonna leave a link down below. I think more people need to get into this camera, use it for their e-bike, e-moto adventures and vlogs and whatever else that you may be shooting. This is honestly the perfect camera. So anyways, I'll leave a link down in the description. So now that you know my thoughts on the Voromotors Roadrunner Pro, it's time to summarize it. Who do I think this bike is for? Well, I think this bike is meant for PV riders who don't want to step away from the two-wheel platform. They've been growing up with perhaps e-bikes or dirt bikes all their life, and electric unicycles may just be too out there for them. So, electric scooters? Well, they are worried about the small wheels and hitting a pothole and basically front flipping over the handlebars. This is where it can come in handy. Or maybe you have a bad back, you don't want to stand all the time, you have a bad knee, you want to sit. This is the perfect bike. You can commute with it. It's got plenty of power for definitely most of the group rides, unless you're doing crazy fast New York City rider type of rides. This would be essentially the perfect bike for you. I just wish the handlebar was a little bit more narrow, but if you're looking for a bike that is basically really compact and something that you can fit into the back of your SUV, well, look no further. This is it. The Voromotors Roadrunner Pro is such a fun PEV to ride. I'll leave a link down in the description, so if you're interested in picking up this bike, it's not an affiliate link, but just kind of where to buy it. Thanks to Voromotors for sending out this bike, and they haven't paid me for this review, but I really wanted to check this bike out and have a chance in riding it and letting you guys know my thoughts on this bike. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next review. Peace.